right, everybody, it's your main man, your ace boom coon. I'm your guy, you my people. I'm that dude that is trying to help you understand more than you already know Black history, trying to help you understand and learn and grasp more of the story of Black history, American history, world history, transatlantic history, Afrocentrism, even healthy eating, healthy diet, healthy wellness. That's me right there. I'm that dude for you. And I'm only in that capacity because I host the show. I'm Anthony Brogdon. But really what it is the people that come on the show like this lady today. She gonna blow your mind. She gonna intoxicate you because what we do here is Strong Inspirations is we give it to you straight, no chaser. Now, I put a little lime in it if you want a lime. I put a lemon in it, I put a cherry, I put an apple, any of them garnishments that you need so that when you finish watching these videos, you are staggering, not DUI staggering, I ain't talking about that, but you are staggering with new knowledge of what you've learned so succinctly as like what this lady is going to do. She a heavyweight in her community. People admire her in her community and around the country because they know her. I'm super excited. I have heard of her on many occasions. She had been recommended to me on many occasions, and I had to find her somehow. And then, because she's very busy, I had to have her people. No, check it out. Because see, I ain't got no people yet. I had to get to her people to get to her. I like that. Oh, you're going to like this one. And I'm telling you what I'd like for you to do today, my brothers and my sisters around the globe, is subscribe to Strong Inspirations. It's free. It don't cost no information. We don't ask nothing. All you do is hit the button. Do that. And what it does, and I'm going to be honest with you, it let me know you like me. Because I like you already. That's all it, that's it. Boom, shakalaka. And you're going to like this video. Matter of fact, if there was a love button, you would hit that on what this lady going to tell you. There's only a like. Hit the like button. Hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up. See, because when I'm not going, I'm disorganized kind of guy. What I mean by that is I don't want to have a set time when I release it. It hit my heart. And my heart says now's a good time. So with that said, if you hit the notification bell, you will get a ding, you'll get a shock, you'll get a smoke signal. Your wife will kiss you, you will kiss your wife, your sons will shake your hand, and daughters and all that to say, Daddy, there's more, Mommy, whatever, whoever you are, there's more on Strong Inspirations. And then do this, my friends. Tell somebody about it. Don't keep it to yourself. You running around here like you know it all because you've been watching. And you won't tell people where you have learned this information. And on top of that, these people that come on here, support them. They come on here with their books, their organizations, their museums. And I put the website in the thing. Support them. Go down there, visit them. Keep this thing flowing. Would you do that for me, my friends? I appreciate it because I'm going to keep giving it to you until you do. I am super excited this lady is on the channel today. No question about it. Man, oh man. And so did you, and this is, I'm leading in a little bit what she's going to talk about. You know, I got a lot of people on the show who talk about Gullah Geechee. I had heard of it, but I wasn't, you know, I'm in Detroit, man. We don't know nothing. Ain't nobody here. You come up here talking that, we just know you ain't go to class. We think you ain't got good English. But that's a tradition out there. That's a formal language. out of that Gullah Geechee. And so, did you see the one I did with this lady, Aunt Pearlie Sue? She
Mm-hmm.
teaches it, she talks about it, she sings it, she's educating folk, touring and all that stuff. Watch that video. I'm gonna stay on this Gullah Geechee. Did you see the one I did with the guy out of Sierra Leone?
Mm.
Who he talks Gullah Geechee. And he came to America and he embraced that tradition because there's a connection between Africa and the Gullah Geechee people and America in general. And he explores that tradition. Did you see the one I got on with the guy out of that same area who also he takes tours? He takes people from America to Africa, in particular to Tanzania. And he had a guy on the show with him out of Tanzania. Watch that video. Did you see the one I did with? There's a lady who there's a nation of Gullah Geechee. She and I don't know how it all happened. I'm not getting into the politics, but they call her the queen of Gullah Geechee, Queen Quet.
Mm-hmm.
Watch that video, and I got them from all over that region, and all out of South Carolina, North Carolina, all over. So watch them. Go down the list. And because it's on YouTube, you can skip me if you want. Just move the cursor to go right to where you want to go to. I have no problem with it. Do that, my friends. Two more things. If y'all don't know by now, I'm going to keep telling you I'm a filmmaker. And this is my documentary. I produced it, financed it, wrote the script, and hired the crew. Took me 3 years of my life because one day it came to my attention that there were slaves who owned businesses. I did not know that. They didn't tell me that in class. I don't think I slept that day. And maybe they didn't know it. So I put it in the movie form, that and so much more. Slaves who went to college. I give you names. It wasn't just them HBCUs. It was some of them white institutions that was accepting blacks during slavery. So it's streaming on Amazon. Man, let me tell you something. I took it to the next level and I wrote this book. It's called Black Business Book. It's got over 200 facts. It's probably got about 28 slave-owned businesses. I tell you the name, the date, what they did, and how rich they became in my book. And I list another 180 more black-owned businesses. I go all the way from slavery to the 1800 to the 1960. And my last one I mentioned is my main man, Berry Gordy at Motown. I chronicle and feature him in my book, plus so much more. So get you a copy of the book. The book is only available at this time. I'm trying to buck the system. Amazon got enough money. So just go to my website, businessintheblack.net. Every 10th book I sell, I donate one to a school. Because I didn't know it. I figured they might not be teaching it in school, so that's my mission. And I'm so confident that the book is good, I'll give you a money-back guarantee if you read it and know everything in my book. You ain't got to do nothing but just send me an email. Man, I knew all that. I give you money back. But I ask you, don't send the book back. Share it to somebody who is not as smart as you. Now, you hear me use this term strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. I try to be a strong man in many respects, do a little calisthenics every now and then, so on and so forth, bike ride, you know, what have you. And strong in my world stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to my guest today. She's a strong soul sister. Come on and introduce yourself. Let's get it on. Thank you for being on Strong Inspirations.
Wow, thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you today. We've been working on this for a while, getting me on.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate your patience
Oh, no
and
problem.
understanding with me getting in this role as a new executive director. I spent about a little over a year now.
Okay.
I'm Victoria Smalls. I'm a proud Gullah Geechee woman from St. Helena Island, the same island that Queen Quet comes from in the Gullah Geechee corridor.
Okay.
And so, wow, I am been a couple of things, but right now I'm the executive director for the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, which is a national heritage area that spans from Pender County, North Carolina, all the way down to, let's see, St. Johns County, Florida. So I want to say from Jacksonville, North Carolina, passing Jacksonville, Florida to St. Augustine. So St. Augustine is included.
Okay, I love
And
it.
from the Atlantic coast to about 30 miles inland is where the Gullah Geechee Corridor, the federal national heritage area, is located.
Okay.
So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Let me do this. I got to talk about you for my guests get to know you. Well, you just alluded to it. You were born on St. Helena. How you pronounce it? Helena?
St. Helena. St. Helena.
So you were born on the island?
Well, not born or raised. I came about at a time where you didn't have the midwives catching babies anymore. For the most part, there's still midwives and doulas that are, do those things here. But I was born in Beaufort, South Carolina, in the hospital and taken home to St. Helena.
Okay. When did you? Okay, what was that like growing up on that little bit of property? Because it's not a big island. So how did you? What school did you go to? Was it all Black people? Whatever.
It was magical. It was magical. You felt free. You felt important, significant. I am number 13 of 14 children. I'm the baby girl of the family. I have a baby brother, and we all work the land on our farm on St. Helena. We have 20 acres of land, and some of my siblings still live on the land that was purchased in the 1860s during the Civil War by my second great-grandparents, Adam and Betsy Smalls. So we still have a portion of the land that they sacrificed and purchased, and the land that they were enslaved on during enslavement.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I know. I gave you a lot.
We go. Hold on. They were enslaved on the land and then bought it?
Yeah, so Beaufort, South Carolina is very special in history when it comes to Reconstruction era and freedom, education, land ownership, and economic opportunity for newly freed people. So whereas most of the United States that had enslaved people, they're going to be enslaved and not be freed until the 13th Amendment in 1865, where Beaufort is going to have a special opportunity because the Union forces are going to come here in 1861. The Union forces are going to take on the enslaved people who are property at this time and take them on as spoils of war, as contraband of war. And they had a plan of action to pretty much summarily free, not legally, but free the enslaved people here in this area. And in 1862, you're going to have freedmen's towns established by freed people. You're going to have the first school in the South founded and opened for newly freed people.
Is that the
you're going to have people owning businesses, buying land in the mid 1860s to late 1860s, buying land and beyond, because of the protections of the Union soldiers and occupation here during the Civil War. That's what made it possible. And then also the ingenuity and the intelligence and knowledge of the people themselves being freedom seekers.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm gonna stay on you. So what did you, were there white people in the town where you grew? Was it all black?
Of course, this was a Confederate state, South Carolina. It was the first to secede from the nation, but because when the Union forces outnumbered the Confederacy, the Confederate soldiers in this area, the Confederates, the landowners, the white landowners, I should say, fled the area because they were holding enslaved people.
Right.
And that's what the war was about. Although some people may debate that, that's what the war was about. It's about the economics of slavery.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
And so they're going to flee this area, go deeper into the interior of the Confederacy to flee the Union soldiers and the soldiers coming in, the federal government coming in. And some of them took some of their enslaved people with them. And some of the enslaved people were left on the land and abandoned on abandoned land, because when you leave this area and the Union forces are going to come through, they can take things on as contraband of war. They're going to take on houses. They're going to take on whatever is in the fields ready to be harvested. They're going to take on crops, animals, and people, because we were, as I said, considered property.
Right.
And yeah, there was a plan of action put in place to help build independence and freedom.
Okay.
And a lot of that had to do with finally paying some of the people to do the work in the fields.
Right, right.
Starting schools in freedmen's towns like Mitchellville, South Carolina, on Hilton Head Island. Mitchellville is going to be the first freedmen's town in America, established in 1862. Oh. And that's because of the Union occupation. Then you have a school called Penn School, which is known as Penn Center today.
Right.
And that's going to be the first known school in the South for newly freed people.
Oh, okay. Let me stop you there. I mean, no disrespect. Let me stop you there.
No disrespect at all.
I want to stay on you just a tad.
Okay.
What kind of school was it that you went to? Was it a one? Mm-hmm. It was beyond one room schools and stuff.
Yeah. So my father attended the Penn School, and there were some one room schools, absolutely. And they called them farm schools, because they worked around the farm schedule, because students that are newly freed people, they're going to have to work the land to be able to feed themselves and sustain their families and communities. And so a school would have to understand that type of schedule. Yeah, otherwise, they would have no students. So there were the one-room schools, but no. St. Helena Elementary School, very proud. Panther, St. Helena Elementary School. And it still is there today. It was a elementary, junior high, and high school. Then through freedom of choice and desegregation, they decided to build a high school in Beaufort, South Carolina, just several miles on the mainland.
Okay.
So my island, you actually needed to cross a bridge. But when my father was living, he would have been about 101, 102 this year.
Okay.
When he was living, he had to take a ferry boat or a Gullah a flat bottom boat that would navigate very little waters, rivers and streams, very shallow waters, and you could pull right up to the edge of the shore. And so he would have to take a ferry ride over to the mainland if they needed to go shopping, if they needed to conduct business. Adam and Betsy Smalls, my second great-grandparents, who purchased 59 acres of land, 20 of which we still own today, they had to take a Batto boat, a Gullah Batto, here to Beaufort to purchase their land in downtown historic Beaufort. So I went to St. Helena Elementary School. My family separated and we moved to another Gullah area called Hilton Head Island, which may not seem like a Gullah community, but there are beautiful historic Gullah neighborhoods on Hilton Head Island. If you take a Gullah tour, you can see them and experience them. So we grew up there for about 5 years. And then my mom wanted to raise us back on the land on St. Helena Island and moved us back. Then I went to Beaufort High School and became an Eagle, graduated from there, went to an HBCU, South Carolina State University, Go Bulldogs.
There you go. There you go.
And studied health and physical education. Then went on to University of South Carolina here in Beaufort. There's a Beaufort branch, and studied early childhood education. Started raising a family, working in the school district in education, and loved it. Started raising some more children, and decided that I wanted to leave teaching and go into the art field. And so I worked at this very well-known art gallery called the Red Piano 2 Art Gallery. It was a leading folk art gallery in the Southeast. It's closed now, but under new Black leadership, and it's called Ly Benson's Gallery. And it's also a Gullah Geechee visitor center on St. Helena Island.
I love it.
So
Come
I
out here.
invite everyone to come to my island, to We
Yes.
Island,
Yes.
meet myself, meet Queen Quet,
Yes.
meet a lot of Gullah people,
Yes.
and experience the culture where some people will call St. Helena Island an epicenter for the culture because of the Penn Center that is
Yes.
there.
Let me ask you this: as a Gullah
Yes.
person,
Mm,
did your family sit around and tell you that as a Gullah
mm,
person you have certain traditions that you have to follow? Is there something like y'all eat on
mm,
Sunday, or y'all go to
mm,
church on Saturday? Is there
mm.
anything like that as a part of it?
So culture, craft, celebration, legacy, rice heritage, maritime culture, all of this is part of what you're talking about and what makes us Gullah Geechee. To answer your question, no. We were Gullah Geechee without really knowing what Geechee Gullah was. Gullah is a new term for me in the 1980s.
Really?
Actually 1990s. I grew up as people calling me Geechee because I had a very heavy, deep Gullah accent. And you know the word Geechee. And most of your viewers, if they're of a certain age and better, they know the term Geechee, and hasn't always been a good term.
Right.
Because if you were to call me Geechee, we were gonna fight.
Really?
Yes.
But you
Light
embrace
skin
it
and
now?
all, light skin, curly hair, little
Yeah.
baby girl. We would have fought because you were telling me that you thought I was less than, that you thought I was uneducated, that I could not read, I could not write, that I was less than you. But it's not your fault that you would think this because mainstream media puts this out there. You think about the soldier story where Sarge is telling one of the underlings and one of his subordinates, calling him Geechee.
Right.
And because he was country and he liked to eat rice.
Right.
So there's one of the things that you have to eat if you're Gullah and Geechee is rice. They do it in West Africa. They do it in East Africa. Rice is a part of life. You cannot have life without rice.
There's no particular type of clothing that Gullah Geechee people wear, though. I mean, it's
Well, I mean, depends. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. No.
okay.
No. I got all black today.
Yeah, right,
A sweater.
right.
But traditionally, during enslavement and after, there were people that would cover their heads. Number one, by law, because if you had, they just wanted to identify enslaved women regardless of the hue of their skin. So if there was an enslaved woman that could pass for white, then laws were put in place that you had to cover their hair so they could be identified as having African ancestry, and therefore most likely coming from enslaved ancestry or being enslaved. So there's
Covered
not
with
really
what? Covered with what? Like a turban or
like a
something?
head wrapping, like cloth,
Okay.
like you see in Africa. It's bringing back our traditions,
Okay.
but enforcing them in a way where we have to cover our hair. But then also you see people celebrating that tradition of covering your hair. A lot of people will equate the Gullah culture with just Christianity, but it's very closely and deeply tied to Islamic belief in the Muslim religion.
Oh, really?
Very deeply.
Okay.
Hence, covering yourself.
Oh.
And then also how we bury the people who have passed on, burying them facing the east near the water, another tradition. But I do want to get back to the rice culture and the maritime culture. That's going to be really why we are Gullah Geechee people, because we're coming from the rice growing regions of Africa. The rice growing regions. So whenever colonists were building this country, there were expertise knowledge that they needed. So they went shopping on the continent. They went shopping and they had their list of what they needed to build America and to build their towns and communities and bring wealth to their labor camps, their forced labor camps, their breeding plantations.
Right.
So they went shoplifting, or however you want to say it.
Sure.
They went and got the experts, the people with the knowledge on how to build the rice fields, how to clear land to make the rice fields, to know the engineering of hydrology, the smiths, the metalsmiths, the goldsmiths. the blacksmiths that we have today,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
If you think about American cuisine, we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg on how much African cuisine has influenced American cuisine. We talk about the music, and even more credit is due to the African for as music is concerned in every aspect.
Sure.
The banjo.
Sure.
Yes, all of it.
Yeah, sure.
So there's a lot. The tradition of making that flat bottom boat, that Gullah batto, we call it, you could spell it bateau, but we call them batto, a Gullah batto. So that's a handmade craft that we brought over across the water with we so that we could navigate the water and stream, yeah. And then also the cast net, the shrimp net, the fish net you fling out in the air and it expands. Then it falls to the bottom of the water. And you pull them up and you get all this bounty from the water. You get the harvest from the water. You get the shrimp, the fish, all types of fish.
The fish?
The fish, mullet fish, fish.
Oh,
like
fish.
whiting and flounder and mullet. So we say fish. We say fish. And we eat the fish with the head on. We don't cut the head off.
Really? Yeah, I know.
I've
seen that.
The eyes need to be looking at you.
Oh, really? Okay, I still got two more on you.
It's so much to go. It's so much to happen, but family, faith, and education are the cornerstones of Gullah Geechee values and traditions.
Okay.
Family, faith, and education.
I love it. I got to get back to you with a couple more because I'm up here and I don't know this. Did you go to a prom?
I did go to prom, and I was so
was it an integrated prom, black and white people?
Yeah. Or just black? By that time, one of my sisters actually during freedom of choice integrated an all black school. So I have all black siblings, I have all white siblings, and biracial. So I am a product of a interracial marriage. When it was against the law to get married in South Carolina, blacks and whites to get married, my mother and father went to my mother's hometown in Michigan and got married there and came back a married couple. They were the first after enslavement that we know of. We don't know all of the history. So much of our history has been covered or removed that we have not been able to learn about.
She's black. What's that?
Yeah, my father is Gullah, African American man, black, and my mother's Caucasian.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but one of the most pro-black mothers that stands for Black land rights and quality education for black children, her black children, as a constitutional right. So she would be in the school board meetings and the county council meetings talking about black land issues and quality education for her black children and community members. They would hate to see Miss Smalls walking through the door.
How did she get to be so apt to that and not be a racist?
She came from a racist family. She was ostracized from her family. She actually, at 15 years old, she decided not to practice the faith in which she grew up in, but decided to become a Baha'i. I'm not sure if you've heard of the Baha'i faith.
No.
But it's a religion. If you want to equate it to religions, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism. It's not it's one of the world religions, but she learned at a teenager that she wanted to learn about the unity of mankind and the equality of all races and the equality of man and women. And she did not see that exhibited within her family and within the faith that they were maybe not practicing well. Maybe that's what the issue is. And she became a Baha'i. And then she came down to St. Helena Island in the 1960s when the Southern Christian Leadership Conferences were coming to St. Helena Island and having retreats at the Penn Center. She met my father the next week when the Baha'i faith was having the winter schools and summer schools doing retreats, also religious retreats as SCLC did at Penn Center. She met my father, who was a Baha'i. He left the Baptist church as a deacon and became a Baha'i. They got married up in Michigan, came back, raised their children as Baha'is. But one of the great things that my parents taught me was the respect and love of all religions and all holy books.
I
All
love it.
holy books. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
did the kids tease you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for number one, they would tease me because of the way that I spoke. My Gullah language is very strong, very strong. And what you hear today is the product of being laughed at and made to feel ashamed of the language that I spoke first. Gullah was my first and only language. Then I became bilingual as I started to had to assimilate to American culture, to English. Because when people laugh at you, you feel a sense of shame. You feel a sense of being less than.
Right.
I did not know that I spoke a whole nother language in America. I did not know at some point I was becoming bilingual as I was learning English. Had I known that at 7, 8, and 9 years old, I would still be fluent in my language today. And the Gullah language is going to be the very thing that is going to identify you as a Gullah Geechee person, is how you speak.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
That is going to identify you. And so I'm working hard. I'm
Yeah.
working really, really hard to regain my fluency.
Oh,
So one
and
of the
Gullah?
ways that I do that, one of the ways I do that is through the New Testament and other books like books by Ronald Days, books by other Gullah speakers that are just coming into mainstream,
Okay,
availability.
okay.
So the Gullah
One more.
Bible.
Go ahead. One more.
Yes, go
Were
ahead.
you
I know
teased
it's a
as being
lot.
light? Were you teased as being light because you were lighter complected
And
and Gullah?
I was not teased until I being an adult. Now I'm being teased for being a light-skinned Gullah because
That's
most
got to
Gullah.
be rare, isn't it?
Oh, you got Gullah people all over this country through migration. Anthony, you might be Gullah and you don't even know it. Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., a Harvard professor, he does Finding Your Roots on PBS.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay, he has done research and has stated that every African American in America today can trace at least one ancestor that came through the ports of Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, I love it.
89.4 or
Love it.
89.1% of people that are Black in America today that are tethered and have legacy ancestry related to enslavement have at least one ancestor that passed through here. Now, when you think about migration, all the great migrations, that time span was vast when
Sure.
all those migrations took place. You're fleeing from the South during enslavement as a freedom seeker, fleeing, because it's not a natural state to be enslaved.
Sure.
So you're trying to resist, rebel by any means. So
I
you're
got one
fleeing during
more.
that time. And then when slavery was over, you're trying to flee racial persecution. You're trying to flee to save your life because your life has been threatened through domestic terrorism, white supremacy.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And
sure.
then you're also trying to seek better opportunity, education, jobs with the
Sure,
industrial boom and the
sure,
industrial age in the 1900s. You're going to
sure,
have an influx of people leaving South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida.
sure.
And we kept a lot of our traditions intact coming from the continent.
Yeah, sure.
And you are Gullah Geechee in America today because we held on to most of our African linkages and connections more than any other Black in America.
I love it. Now, let me ask you, as Gullah and being down there, is there racism in your family where the white guy tried to do something? He took the land from your great grandfather, or did the
Mm-mm.
KKK ever show up? Any of that
The
kind of thing?
KKK has shown up. My father, while he was a Baptist minister, deacon, and then after he left the church, he was a deacon of defense for Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King and SCLC came to St. Helena Island often and had retreats, multiple retreats at the Penn Center in the 1960s. Dr. King and the staff, Jesse Jackson, Andrew Young, Septima Clark, I'm going on,
Yeah.
Reverend Abernathy, Baynard Rustin. I'm going on about the key staff that are targets. They needed protection, and they had to enlist the deacons of defense in different areas across the South for protection. And some of that protection is still needed today in our houses of worship, as you can see,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
what took place in Charleston at
Yeah.
the Mother Emmanuel.
Yeah, right,
That
right.
there are churches now that may not be using the word deacons of defense, but are protecting the congregation in different ways.
I got one more, and we're
So
gonna get
my
into
father,
the story.
right,
Yeah,
but my
yeah,
father
yeah.
was one of the deacons of defense. And once the Klan heard about Dr. King's visit, because you can't keep that kind of thing secret when you
Okay.
come into a small town or any town, when Dr. King and the SCLC leadership is coming, it's hard to keep that a secret. So it got out to the KKK, and they made a trip to St. Helena Island in a couple of pickup trucks, as my father stated. And my father and the deacons heard that they were coming, and they set up posts, but they were setting up posts anyway to provide additional protections for Dr. King and the staff.
When you say post, what do you mean by that?
So there's one way on and off the island
Right.
by road, but there's
Right.
multiple ways to get on and off the island by boat. So you would have different, my father, the deacons of defense would be placed strategically on the island at certain posts, because we know who belongs on the island, who's a Kamya or who a Benya,
I got you.
who is coming here to visit or to cause trouble,
Yeah,
or who is coming, who's been here. We
yeah,
know each other.
yeah.
And if you're a visitor, you kind of stick out like a sore thumb.
Right,
Or a green thumb or a good thumb. I'm not
right,
saying not every visitor is going to be someone that wants to stir up trouble. No.
right.
So the Klan came up and rode up on my father's group of deacons, and they told my father, hand him over now. Hand him, as in Dr. King, over now. And the men, the group that my father was in, decided that they were going to have a little conversation and let the men wait, the Klan members wait. And then they sent my father, who was 6'6", dark chocolate, deep, very commanding man, over to them with a shotgun in his hand.
Oh, really?
All of them were armed, and went over to the truck and says, we're not handing anyone over. And if you don't leave this island now, you will not leave alive. So that's who I come from.
And
I'm very proud.
the moral of the story, they did leave, I guess.
They left. There had been threats, but then there's also things on the island that make people fearful of coming to the island, bringing in some of our supernatural beliefs, our spirituality beliefs from West Africa.
I love it.
So that could be the knowledge of the power of the land, the water, in herbal remedies. Some people call it root doctoring. So there were lots of root doctors. One in particular was called Dr. Buzzard. And we also feel that along with our religious practices and the protection of supernatural forces, that many people are not successful in their plans. That's some of the beliefs of the elders that share the stories. There's a lot. There's a lot to our culture. There's the crafts, the sweetgrass basket.
Yep.
This is a small example
of
a very small example of the sweetgrass basket. But then you also have all these baskets from West Africa that are also coiled baskets. Underneath this pretty thread is the same sweetgrass that's here. And we brought that knowledge over with us because we needed to cultivate and harvest the rice that brought immense wealth to the enslavers here in America. Then we got celebrations. We got a celebration coming up for the Gullah Geechee corridor. We have the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor celebration on October 29th. That's a Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. All of y'all invited. Please come on to Beaufort, South Carolina.
Okay, I love it. Okay, let me see. I got one more.
Go back. You got to go back.
And I'm gonna go fast. Yeah. Have you ever heard the term nigger? Has anyone ever said that to you, derogatory, and you had to clinch up? Anything like that?
Absolutely. So when my mother and father would travel with us, my mother and father had to be really smart about being in the 60s and 70s traveling with a white woman in the South. And with Black children, white children, and biracial children, sometimes it was unsafe for my mother and father to travel together. So my mother would have to travel by herself in a car with children. Sometimes if there was a flat tire or something wrong with the car, my father had to equip my mother with all the knowledge of fixing a flat tire, doing whatever needs to be done, jumping a car, because what she noticed is when she was on the side of the road as a white woman standing up for help, they'd pull over. But as soon as they see the Black children and the biracial children, they're like, nah, we're not doing this with any lovers. Yeah, so there were things that we were sheltered from. St. Helena Island was just a very special place. It still is where we felt protected. We so much so that the culture there, as well as other sea islands in the Gullah Geechee corridor, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, you'll see the culture so well preserved as far as people still speaking fluently, people living in a communal village-like setting. So there are people, there are families that still live in a village-like setting where they have their family and extended family living on one plot of land, helping to raise the children. Now, we've gotten away from that a lot through, these generations today, where, people are going off in different areas through migration for better opportunity. Being forced off the land also. Through increase in property taxes, not being able to afford the increase. So if you look at the Gullah Geechee corridor map today, you will see that is prime real estate, prime resort area.
That's what I'm sure. Yes, the Hilton Head, so they come down there for golfing and all that.
Everything, fishing and any water maritime sport you can think of. Yes. And so it's really important for us to share our culture in a public way, and that's through celebrations and festivals and education. So that's really what I do. We have to support our communities. We are trying as a Gullah Geechee corridor to nurture pride and facilitate an understanding of awareness of the significance of Gullah Geechee people, our history, our art, and our culture, and our contributions to the United States of America and building America. We also help to sustain and preserve land, our language, our cultural assets within our coastal communities. We want to promote economic development and independence among our Gullah Geechee people. And then we also want to educate the public, ourselves and the public. So what does that look like? That does look like edutainment at a celebration or a festival. You can go to a festival and have all this wonderful Gullah cuisine, but then you're being educated about the language and the history of the people. Not you're having so much fun, you don't even know you're being taught something. So we like to support festivals and programs that are happening. So we do everything in partnership with other organizations and communities to help uplift and sustain our people.
Are there markers, like you can drive on the highway and talk about, okay, now I'm below the Mason-Dixon line. There's some sign along the highway. Are there markers that say that?
You ask the best questions. Yes, the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor has signage markers on 95, on Highway 17, going on down, because Highway 17 is a very long road, and in areas off those routes. So you can pass through a Gullah Geechee within North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and you will see a red-blue sign that says Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, that you are here. We are now engaging in replacing some signs because we put those signs up in 2012. And they really don't have a longevity as far as how they look. They're looking kind of worn.
I got you. So, I can just stand.
So we're going to be working on replacing those in about a year and a half time, because there are a lot of signs out there. And then we're also wanting to identify some new spaces and uplift some unincorporated areas that are significant culture settings for the Gullah Geechee people.
Could you, if somebody wasn't born under, in your area or something like that, but they really like the concept, let's call it, the culture. Is there a way that they could be adapted to learn how to speak the language, any of those things?
Anthony, earlier I said that you're going to have, for migration, you got people in Detroit, you got people in Chicago and Philadelphia and New York and Harlem, out west in California, in Texas, New Orleans, all over the Oklahoma, all over the United States that are come from Gullah Geechee ancestry, come from the enslaved ancestors and have that heritage within them and don't even know it.
But is there a way to teach them how to speak the language?
So you can learn. There's a professor at Harvard, a teacher at Harvard. His name is Sun, Sunn Micheau, Mcheau, Sun Micheau. And I think there's an X on the end. I'm not sure. He's the Gullah teacher at Harvard, and he does some YouTube, has a YouTube channel and talks about the language. We also we have the Gullah Geechee Corridor, we have 2 language workshops and presentations. We just had 3 or 4 we just had in September, and we have some more. So we want you to connect with us on Facebook.
Yes.
At Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, National Heritage Area. So if you connect with us, like us, and follow us there, that's our most up-to-date information on some of the things that we have happening. We got some Gullah language workshops taking place in October.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so reach out to us there. Facebook is going to be our biggest platform as far as most recent activity.
Within that corridor, you have a number of islands that a lot of people don't know about. They might not know of St. Helena Island, but there's Tybee Island. And can you name some islands that
yes,
just give us a little idea of that as resort towns that people should visit, so on and so forth?
I want to be representative of all the states. So let me just go give you a little taste. Let's see here.
Because I know there's a Tybee
I know
Island.
some by heart, but I want to be a little bit more intentional.
Yeah, please, I can. Yeah, I got you.
Yes. This is my Bible.
Okay.
We have a Gullah Geechee management plan that we use when we partner with organizations and communities to spread the word about the culture, to uplift and sustain our people. And so let me pull open my list of maps and islands and areas. I love this so much. So there are 4 states in the Gullah Geechee Corridor, 27 counties and 12,000 square miles. So I'm thinking, you got several areas in the Wilmington, North Carolina area. You've got you're going to come down into South Carolina, you're going to have the Myrtle Beach area, you're going to have Sandy Island. That's one place.
Never heard of it.
You got to go there by a boat. You got to go by ferry. You're going to have Defusky Island off of Savannah and Hilton Head Island. You need a boat to get to that. You got Hilton Head Island, people know.
Yeah.
You got Johns Island, Wadmalaw Island, St. James Island. You got multiple Polly's Island. And some of these areas have been, has major destruction during this last Hurricane Ian.
Yeah. Oh man.
You got, oh my goodness, Edisto Island.
I heard of that one.
You've got, there's so many. There's hundreds of sea islands. There's so many.
So they call them the Sea Islands.
They call them the Sea Islands.
Okay.
And some of them are a few of them still don't have bridges too. You've got Wilmington Island, Tybee Island you mentioned. You've got, oh my gosh, I'm like Sapelo Island in Georgia. Oh gosh, goes on and on and on.
I never heard of them.
Sapelo is going to be, all the islands have a distinct history about what makes them so special, because you're going to have what Africans coming to those sites of enslavement based on their expertise of what they're bringing over with them, whether that's rice cultivation, whether that's indigo, whether that's sea island cotton, whether that's the metalsmithing and all of that. There's just lots of places. There's so many places that you can
Okay, I
visit.
got you.
But Gullah Geechee also takes place on the mainland, in Beaufort and Port Royal Island and in Charleston,
Oh,
in Navassa and Leland, North Carolina, in
mm.
Southport, North Carolina, in Georgetown, South Carolina. It's
Okay,
up and down,
I
St.
got you. I love it.
Augustine.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the in today's terms? What I recognize, because I like I said, I've been to Hilton Head, I've been to Myrtle Beach. White folks have taken it over, have they? In many instances, or and so some of it is to fight back with that in terms of zoning, that you can't take over this land because it's sacred land. How do we fight back that? I don't know if we're going to call it gentrification, but for let's
Yeah.
say for
There's gentrification happening all over. And because of the very nature of the landscape, the natural landscape that we have, Gullah Geechee people are tied to their ancestral land that their ancestors worked for free on. Now, there was a time period when President Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, gave the 40 acres and a mule through the Special Field Orders 15 with during the Civil War. But when President Johnson came into administration, he took all those 40 acres back from the ones and gave it over to the people that were pledging their allegiance, former Confederates that were pledging their allegiance to America. And they were able to either pay their penalties, pay their taxes, pay the fines, pledge their allegiance to America because they were traitors to the Union. And they were able to get their land back in some cases. Now, in the cases where people like my ancestors, Adam and Betsy, there's a Freedmen's Bank application I'm pointing to on the wall right here.
yeah,
Adam and Betsy had money in the bank. This is their bank application called at the Freedmen's Bank. And these were banks that were opened up during the Reconstruction era when someone served in the military, served civilly, peripherally the Union. They didn't have any banks for free people,
sure.
formerly enslaved people. So this is going to be the beginning of the banking system. This is also going to be the beginning of the distrust of the American banking system by Black people, because there was embezzlement throughout all of the freedmen's banks in the South. People's money was embezzled. Adam and Betsy, my second great grandparents' money was embezzled, was stolen from them. So this is going to be where African Americans start to tuck money away in coffee jars, hiding them away in the mattress, burying it in the yard. And so there was a deep, deep distrust with the banking system because of the freedmen's banks being rife with embezzlement. So the land that they purchased in the 1860s, this document is from February 9, 1869, when they put their money in the bank. They put their money in the bank, they owned the land, they grew the crops that they knew how to grow and were taught to grow the sea island cotton. So they continued that growth on the land in which they purchased. Now, when their money was stolen out of the Freedmen's Bank, they had no money to pay their workers, their farm workers, because slavery is over during this time period. Even in 1862, when you had to start paying the people in this area for the work being done. So that was over in this area. And so when that money was stolen, they couldn't pay their workers. They couldn't pay the cotton gin to help process and prepare the cotton to be shipped off to Europe.
Right.
Because sea island cotton was that valuable. It was shipped off overseas. Some of it even went to the Vatican to make their robes and different cloths for the Vatican. Sure. So when you didn't have that money and it was stolen, how are you going to pay all of these bills? How are you going to pay your taxes on your land when it's being stolen from you? So they lost their land, all 59 acres. Wow. And got it all back at a tax sale, got all 59 back.
Oh, yes.
Lost it again. Got it back.
Yes.
Lost it again. And was only able to recoup 20 acres of the 59 acres that they purchased. And thank God.
Yes.
And they were able to hold on to that. And we are still on our land.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
generations and generations of their ancestors were enslaved on that land.
Yeah.
And so
Last
this is,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is deep ancestral land. And so we are really working hard with organizations and community members to protect and preserve not only our tangible assets, but also our intangible natural and cultural resources. And that includes the land.
Yeah. Last question. What would you like? What is the goals? What would be a ideal situation per what you do and all the others like you in terms of Gullah Geechee? People
Wow.
across
I got
America knowing
personal,
about it. What have you? What have
okay, I got personal goals and then I got organizational goals. I'm gonna talk
you? All
about
right.
the organizational goals that
All right.
we want to foster an awareness and, like I said earlier, nurture pride within ourselves.
Okay.
Because when I was growing up Geechee, I was made to feel ashamed because people laughed at me. We want to instill pride and dignity and awareness within ourselves and an appreciation to with the public on who we are. Educate them about our history, our contributions to the development of the United States of America,
Love it.
to our connections to the African diaspora, whether we're on the continent, we're in South America, or in between or throughout the United States, everywhere. So this African diaspora and other international countries, we also want to enhance the quality of life for current and future generations of Gullah Geechee people within the corridor, and also extend that out because we know our people are all over the United States. And again, we want to protect, preserve, and restore those assets, those tangible and intangible assets. That's the language. That's our crafts. That's the land and living in harmony with the land. Because we know there is a very sensitive biodiversity within our cultural landscape. And we have to have a good balance within living off the land and the water and being responsible to the land. Like our native nation, tribal family taught us as well.
Yes.
We brought this knowledge with us from Africa, but then also we were taught by our native brothers and sisters.
Is there a rough estimate of how many Gullah Geechee people there are in your
We're
corridor?
gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that because we can count the people within the corridor. We don't have that full number, but we feel that so many of us have migrated out.
Oh, yeah,
We
sure,
got to do
sure,
a count
sure.
on the migration that has happened, gone out of
Yes.
of the corridor, because we want to count everybody.
Yeah,
So
sure.
my personal goals,
Yes.
I want to see Gullah language in our schools in the corridor, just like they have Spanish and French
really?
and Mandarin and Latin that no one, so if our Spanish speakers can have English as a second language, Gullah speakers need to have English as a second language. I want to be able to go to a community school and learn my language, re-educate myself about my language so I can be so fluent that English is again my second language. That's one. I want to be we want to be able to teach our teachers that are in the classrooms about the beauty of our people and our culture, so that when they hear Gullah, when they yeti a Gullah child say the Gullah language, when they yeti them, when they hear it, they won't educate that Gullah out of that child. They will congratulate them on being bilingual and speaking Gullah. So we got to teach our teachers because they touch so many children. They have the pulse on some. They make every profession possible. In my opinion, teachers have the noblest profession because they make all others possible. Doctors, even clergy, they make that possible.
Sure.
Then another goal of mine is land, preserving our land, keeping it productive, profitable, and keeping it for our heirs in the future. Buying land, we know that there is sea level rise, we are in a climate crisis. Their climate change has happened. It will happen. The sea is going to rise. It has been rising. And we have to come up with a plan of action on what we're going to do. Are we going to pack up and move inland a little bit and take our culture with us, just like we did when we left, when we were forced to leave Africa? So coming up with plans of actions and working with organizations and communities on how they want to see that happen. And not tell them, but work with them in partnership and in collaboration, because our elders, they got the wisdom.
Okay.
And it's the young folks that have the energy and more innovation to really make things happen. You can't do it alone. We got to come together, children, work together, children. That's a song my daddy used to say, work together, children, don't you get weary. Yeah. Pray together, children, don't you get weary. He had a better voice than I, a deep, beautiful voice. But those are my goals. I want to share Gullah Geechee with anyone that will have me talk about it. So if any of your listeners want to invite us anywhere, gather some people around and we'll come. We'll come and share our culture and talk about how you might be Gullah Geechee in your community and don't know it.
Yeah, one more came to mind. What about the federal government? Is there policies that have happened? You might have said this already, or that you want to see happen to recognize Gullah Geechee as some big entity? Or
we are recognized. In 2006, the United States Congress designated and authorized the Gullah Geechee corridor as a national heritage area. So we are being recognized. We are not a part of the National Park Service. However, we are part of one of their programs, National Heritage Area programs. We do get a little bit of funding, only $500,000 a fiscal year to do the work that we have to do. We only have 2 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. We actually have federally appointed commissioners in each state of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida that are experts, scholars, people that work within Gullah Geechee communities that help us as well in really big ways. They are appointed by the Secretary of the Interior. And we also depend on them for their knowledge. When I'm not able to go somewhere and speak, we enlist our experts as well. I used to be a federal commissioner. I was really happy to serve in that capacity. You are a volunteer, you don't get paid. Now I am a paid staff of the commission, of the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission, as executive director. More recognition needs to happen. More funding needs to happen. We need to see this within our schools on a state level. We need to see it on a national level as far as language recognition. Lots of protections need to be put in place regarding land protections for Gullah Geechee people who have worked the land for free. Their ancestors had worked the land for free, and you know, there's some repair that should happen.
I love it. What last one? What is your website? And tell us just again, that festival is when that you spoke of earlier.
Yes. So our Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor celebration is Saturday, October 29th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and you're invited.
Yeah.
We have a lot of other programs that we do in the corridor that we put in place on our Facebook page at Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, National Heritage Area. I know it's a lot to say and a lot to type, but it'd be worth it if you visit our site.
Yes.
You can visit our website at www.gullahgeecheecorridor.org. gullahgeecheecorridor.org.
Close us out on in Gullah Geechee language, however you would see fit.
Oh, well, thank you. I really, I would like to say, Anthony, I gladly foresee on the day. I gladly foresee on the day. I hope foresee on the soon. I gladly foresee on the day. Hope foresee on the soon. You can understand a little bit of what I'm saying. When I was a little girl, you wouldn't understand none of that. I'm glad to see you today.
Yes.
Hope to see you soon. I gladly foresee on the day. Hope foresee on the soon. Tanky.
Yes. Everybody, I told you. And me and her was battling too, because she was talking and I'm trying to get the question. And that's her passion. That's her passion. She somehow got this as a child. Not somehow, through the gods and through the parents and through the experiences. She was smart enough to take it and run with it. She ran with this. She ain't, oh no, I don't want to be like that. No, and now she's telling others, come join me. Matter of fact, I want to be better. I want to learn more. You got an icon in front of you, my friends, on Strong Inspirations. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notifications bell, tell somebody about this. And to you, my sister, I say this and I mean this with all sincerity. I really do. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love what you're doing. I love who you've become. You love it. You impressed with yourself. Them people down there impressed with you.
Thank you.
They are. They say, look, that's one of our own. And she didn't leave and she's making us better. That's a beautiful thing. Keep it going as you do, as you see fit. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm coming down there. I can't make the October thing because I'll be there 2 weeks later for the Pen Festival.
Yeah, Heritage Day celebration. Yeah, absolutely. That is very important. That's another homecoming. So you're gonna feel like you're coming home, and you're gonna feel some kind of way. Just don't drink the water, because then you may have to stay.
Watch out. I got no problem with it. Everybody, with that, I'll say bye-bye. We're out. Thank you so very much.
Bye-bye. Take care.